Come on, you take the floor.
We have a flag to.
Yeah, we do. It's right over there. You take the floor.
All right, pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you.
Right.
You take the call.
So thank you, everyone for being here.
No.
So hopefully we will, have our contact from the veterans group join us at some point, if not tonight. Just so everybody has some context, Jordan Cleveland, I was a veterans agent that I have contact with in my role I work for the Continuum of Care, which is the homeless service, HUD's homeless service agency out of Worcester County, as my day job. And I have some contact with Jordan Cleveland through that work. We frequently find ourselves in common meetings, but he's a fantastic resource for veteran resources, and he is intimately familiar with a supply of vouchers that are available for veterans that would be potential resources that are available from HUDs. This is a federal resource that communities like ours potentially have the option to be able to apply for and bring back to the local community. So from talking with Natalie here over the last several months and in our time on this board together, it became clear that, you know, that would be a really nice opportunity. Natalie, I think safe to say that you are familiar with the veteran population and community here.
Well, we also
To a degree that.
yeah, there's also ClearPath at Devon's that has housing for homeless, but that's another arena. But there is options out there. I know the BASH program, you know, you can buy a house with some of these different programs other than, you know, your perk that you get for being in the military. So there's a variety of federal and I'm not sure the state, I'm not gonna quote myself on that yet.
Yeah.
But the opportunity is out there for
So
veterans and some families as well.
It's a rich package of benefits
Yes.
that are available. And is
Yeah.
it safe to say that you're in touch with the community?
Oh.
You would be aware of some candidates
Yes.
within the community that would be both interested and potentially eligible to receive some of these benefits?
Yeah, yes, because there's always
Yeah.
people are transitioning back and forth from military to civilian. Like I get a listing of who's coming back and I usually touch base with them
Right.
to see how they're doing and what they need from us, because, you know, we get the benefits and the perks. We just get the information out there. So I go to different locations like the senior center, as well as the, you know, VFW, which is the Veterans Council. So we discuss that so they can know they've got benefits besides VA.gov. That's a big thing. And the state has a lot of opportunities too for housing and other benefits. So
And so Natalie's obviously a leader here within our local community that is just very, very enmeshed within the community, and anyone who is a veteran in need, I think people know that Natalie is a go-to person that they can get in contact with. So we thought for that reason and for, you know, my experience working with the COC in Worcester, I'm familiar with the HUD funding protocols. The application process with HUD requires it's a fairly complex annual funding cycle called a NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, that's published annually. Communities that are interested in this have to make a bid for these vouchers, that they're not just automatically awarded. And then based on those communities that make the bid that prove to be, you know, most eligible, the awards are made by the federal funder. So in this case, we're talking about, it's called the VASH voucher program, which is a NOFA that we think we could make a stab at making an application for a small pool of those as a starting point to be able to pull some of that funding back into Townsend and help out some of our local community.
Mhm.
Now, one of the factors for doing this that I think is typically a bit intimidating, particularly for small communities, and, you know, we're looking at our board of 3 that has an empty seat. And, you know, it is essentially Natalie and I who meet here, you know, once a month. it's a little bit intimidating, to think that if we're assuming responsibility for a going concern that's going to require, a rent roll to be maintained, the accounting has to be maintained, and unit inspections have to be arranged for and organized. So as we were thinking about this as a small community, we thought it would, that capacity issue is a non-trivial limit to what we would be able to assume personally. That's part of what we reached out to you, Karen, for, and hopefully, between you and Bernard, we're hoping that you guys might be able to either get us in touch with some other communities that are similarly situated, where rather than us going it alone, we might be able to share the load of some of that responsibility, and or maybe even, find a community that has some well-developed capacity that we could offer to give them some of the administrative funds that come along with these vouchers to help arrange to have it organized in a way that leaves the burden of responsibility to our small team to a minimal degree. So we can make decisions about, how we do the housing allocation plan, but don't necessarily have to assume all of the responsibility for getting everything done once we've deployed a voucher. So that's kind of where we're at. That's the discussion that we started to have, I think, at our last meeting now. And I don't know if that's a good place to stop and invite some discussion from.
Sure, yeah, I have a couple of questions. So it's veterans that live in Townsend, but the vouchers they get, they can go anywhere.
So my understanding, and I wish Jordan were here to be able to help answer this, but my understanding is that that's the case. Yes, it's not necessarily a lock-in in that respect, but there's an element of we need to formulate a housing allocation plan, and part of the terms of that plan would provide some. I think there's some local control over exactly how this is handled.
Right.
Like, for example, does the person have to currently live in Townsend? Or do they just have to demonstrate that maybe they went to high school here and graduated, and they haven't lived here in a while, but they have some ties here. I don't know exactly where the HUD requirement leaves off and the local decision is left up to the local community yet. But we're at that place where we are heading down the path of seriously wanting to engage in entering into that contract with HUD. And when we do, part of that is us writing that plan that would dictate these terms. But we want to be sure that before we take that leap, we have some preparation in place. That's why we've invited you to sort of help us understand what you might be aware of for resources to help with our capacity.
Okay, so Bernie did some research. I don't know, Bernie, if you want to jump in and say.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Jordan would be here already. Quick question. So, there's a lot of moving parts for this. What is the local regional Veterans Administration facility? Is that out of Worcester?
I believe Worcester's
Yeah, as
Worcester.
far as
All right.
side.
If I'm understanding this correctly, and I'd have to ask Jordan this, I think he would would have to reach out to them, because if I'm getting this, the VA medical centers, or VAMCs as they're called, would have to play an integral part with this. And then also any housing authority, if I'm reading this correctly and understanding what they're saying on the web page, is that they have to become designated public housing agencies. Like yours has to become a designated service provider in order to deal directly with the veterans in terms of administering support, and kind of acting. So most of the time the VA medical centers play that role. So they would either be the ones who are in touch with the veterans already, or the veterans themselves reach out through them, and then they seek help about where they're going to go. If my understanding, and again, I don't know, Jordan can answer this question, is that if a local housing authority wants to engage in that role in some way, shape, or form, that they have to become designated. which is a whole process and paperwork and all that. Something we can definitely help with.
Yes. That's exactly the place that we're at, is we're entertaining becoming that, that kind of a housing authority. We currently do
Yeah,
not have a contract, but we're at the point where we think this would be of value to the community, and we see the opportunity with the board that we have right now. We think it would be a good idea.
yeah.
And Natalie, are you the veterans agent
I am,
just for Townsend or,
just for Townsend.
and do you talk with other veterans agents or do you have a group that meets or anything like that?
We have a association that there's always chats going on with, we have open communication with what's going on, what's new, what's happening. If I need to ask questions, I've only been doing this a year and a half. We do have conferences. I reach out to some of the VSOs, I put it out there and I get the right information, the correct information. And that way we, do it the right way. I know a person that did get a VASH and she bought a house at Devon's with the system, with that. I'm not sure how it was done, but that's what we need to do. We don't want to just jump in here and go, we don't know. We
Right.
want to make sure we do it by the numbers, as we always do in the military. Do it by the numbers, do it right and not be repetitive. We make mistakes, but we want to make sure we do the right thing first. And I do get a listing of veterans that do need us. A lot of them are in the housing here in Townsend, but you've got, I hate to say, the kids that are coming off of active duty and deployments, because there are still deployments going on, that we can assist, whether it's Townsend, whether it's other communities, because there's always that connection. We're always connected. If you want to live in Townsend, great, that's fabulous. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of different parts, like you said, that we can entertain to get, to get it going, to get the communities, I guess, moving again, alive again for housing and make it
Yeah.
appealing. And that's what we want. We're a community of veterans. We want to make sure we can, help families, widows, and, retirees as well.
Well, like you said, you can imagine, a young service member coming home right now, the housing market. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing for a living, but, in a military salary, trying to buy a home in this market is just, good luck. I mean, my God, it's gone berserk. So that's the situation everybody's confronted with, but, we just feel like it would be, this resource is available, and we don't want to miss the opportunity to try to do something to make a difference. We felt like this would be, if we can pull this off, whether it's a handful to start with, or, if that's all we do, so be it. But, maybe we could have that be a starting point of making a difference with a little bit of a process we can build on.
So we do have funding right now to assist our communities with federal grant applications. So we have that capacity. We have never done this before. I was involved in a HUD application for the Townsend Woods, but that's my extent of experience with HUD. But we're quick learners and we know how to follow the directions. And with your help in gathering information, we can reach out to other communities, that have like Leominster or Fitchburg, who have more capacity, that may be able to serve as your administrative / financial responsible person. The person, because you guys don't own any property, so I don't know if that's a prerequisite that if a housing authority applies for veterans vouchers, do they have to already own something?
No. So this is a rental subsidy. So
they can go anywhere, and you, as the agency that's applying, doesn't have to have housing for them to get into.
Right.
Okay.
It's just like it's a housing voucher basically, where they take that ideally. Well, the idea being they go find a landlord that the rent is say $2,000 a month, and if the voucher is enough to cover $1,600 a month, you know, the voucher's gonna help them with that portion. They're responsible for the balance.
Okay, we got a question.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
The VASH program for this area is operated out of the Bedford VA Hospital. They have a VASH
Okay.
office and
Okay.
Yeah.
they help the veterans in this area get, housing. So this person you're talking about that got something, and if they did it through VASH, if it was VASH that,
Yeah.
that got them the housing, then it was through the Bedford VA. They managed the whole thing, so.
Because there's so many
Well,
different
so
programs out there, so.
Well, there's
The
only
VASH
VASH is
program-
VASH, there isn't
Right.
like more than one VASH.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
Bedford.
Well, the VASH program, the VA isn't a housing administrator. So we are the housing authority that would be the housing administrator. So the VA is engaging with the local housing authorities to be able to make it available. So if you have a
Right,
friend
but it has
that
a
received
clinical
one,
component.
you know, maybe they received it from the Fitchburg Housing or the Shirley Housing Authority. But it would go through a housing authority in order for it to be deployed. And what we're saying is, you know, as the Townsend Housing Authority, there's no reason that we couldn't also be a venue that the VA is able to make those resources available through.
Sure, as long as you got housing to provide.
exactly.
We don't need to
No.
provide the housing. This is a subsidy for, the person can use it to rent,
Okay.
Okay,
you know, so long as this rental housing available on the market.
Okay.
Which is, I know that's a challenge too, but that's how the whole ball works.
Just a side question I had. I know the housing authority in the past had been looking at building veterans housing, and I don't know where that ever went.
that was Sojourn, that wasn't approved by our community. It was Sojourn that we had visited the housing authority when I first came on board down in Agawam, if I remember right. So we were still new at trying to figure out the housing, and I'd asked you to fill that Chaz, because he was more, Chaz Drenny, he was more involved with that. I was just coming on board. So I would venture that, or I'd also check the minutes of those meetings, like 5 years back to see where we were. And Laura Schiffman was also on the committee as well. So I know it was voted down at a town meeting. I know that. I was at the meeting, so. And there's other avenues, Sojourn, that we can venture at. I mean, we're looking for ideas. You know, we want to help veterans, we want to help their families.
Yeah, I mean, there's property at Atwood. I mean, there's 11 acres at Atwood that should be built upon.
I had a quick question. Excuse me. Have you reached out to the Affordable Housing Trust in Townsend? Have
Yes.
they played a role in this at all? Are they aware of this issue, and are you
They're-
working together?
Yes, so part of what I'm describing is it is a framework of a relationship with HUD. So even though we're talking about VA sponsored vouchers, the VA is a federal funder, so the funds are actually coming from HUD for the housing voucher. This is very similar to the Section 8 or housing choice voucher subsidies. These are handled in the same way, but they're just they're given a veteran preference as opposed to, you know, a housing choice voucher would be a low income housing voucher that a housing authority would administer. But once we have established a relationship with HUD in being able to make applications for funding, there isn't a element of our relationship that is limited to just the veteran component. So it would open the possibility of us being able to apply for other kinds of vouchers. Say, for example, there's vouchers that are available for domestic violence survivors. There are vouchers that are available for low income, vouchers that are available for veterans in this case. But we felt like the veteran opportunity right now, given Natalie's experience in the community and, you know, the fact that we can potentially get a little bit of support from folks like Jordan and others that have some experience and are able to lend themselves to it, we could get something stood up to build that relationship with HUD, that once it's there, then we could leverage that for, you know, maybe some additional opportunities in other ways. Or senior housing is another one of the
Yes.
voucher options
Yeah.
that are, you know,
Yeah.
made available through those processes, so.
So do we want to figure out, what we're gonna do to prep for this? Like, Bernie, when is the deadline is it a rolling thing or? You're muted.
That was a little unclear to me too, looking through this. I think I'm just going to give the VA a call tomorrow and try to figure this out. Again, I was hoping Jordan would give us maybe some clues about.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with him about it and offline, and basically he left me, I can just give you this, he left me feeling confident that there would be something that they would be able to do from their side to help walk us through the process of being able to access some of these vouchers. Now,
Right.
there's they typically get batches of funding, and that typically comes in a batch for an annual cycle, and
Right.
sometimes it's off cycle. But typically, that's the way it works. Well, they'll get an annual funding stream of, X number of millions of dollars to provide vouchers for this particular region. And, we were basically making application for some of those funds for our community. And, he said that, they had, I believe another small, I want to say it was Webster maybe down in South County that recently went through a similar process. And, he was familiar with what they were doing. And, it sounded not too dissimilar to what, we're setting out to do, where it was a small quantity of vouchers for dash vouchers that they started with, and they're building from there. So I think he has walked this road, enough that it would definitely be, helpful, but he left me optimistic that it would also be fruitful. Whether or not it happened in this year's funding cycle, having the pieces in place to unlock it in a
Right.
subsequent cycle he left me feeling optimistic that we could get something done.
So
Right. I mean, there's no deadline on signing up to be a designated service provider. So, I mean, we can do that at any point.
We can begin doing some of that work so that those pieces are in place, so that when a
Right.
NOFA becomes available, the asking for qualified communities to make the application, if we're a qualified community at that point, we can then, strike at that opportunity when it becomes available.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So I guess, how do you want to proceed? Do you want us to start gathering information for the application? Do we want to have another meeting where we know that Jordan can be here and answer questions, or?
So I would definitely love, to be able to get Jordan or one of his, peers at some point to join us from that side, definitely.
And we can meet with them separately. I mean, we can get the lowdown on the
Yeah.
process and how best to proceed.
Yeah, if you're able to, I don't know about you, Natalie, but for my part, would be comfortable with you guys having a conversation, independent of me.
Oh, of course,
Um,
yeah.
And is there not having looked at the application, is there a number that you're looking at? Like a number of people or an amount of money or?
I think it would be probably appropriate for us to start out with a modest target. I was thinking like maybe 5 vouchers would be like it'd feel like a number that, would be, wouldn't get overwhelming, to start with, and then it would give us enough opportunity to have a few examples to work through that, by the end of working through 5, assuming we get that we would feel, confident that we'd seen the process enough to know, okay, is this something can we scale that? Or is that enough? Is Townsend really only going to be able to handle that? But yeah, I think 5 was just a round number that I had in mind, and did we discuss that?
I think we,
less-
yeah,
we
because
might
we
have-
wanted to start
Yeah,
and then, learn as we go or
yeah.
go in the right direction. This way we know what the interest is for
Yep.
housing. We have to, almost like do a scale on it, see what's out there. And we have a lot of seniors that, are in housing right now, as we know, over at Atwood Acres and Townsend Woods. But we're getting more, the senior community is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep.
Plus, we're having families move into towns as well. It's a combination of growth and taking care of our,
Yes.
veterans. It's a little, transition always happens, ups and downs and everything else. So we gotta look at the whole picture and see what we have for, I know the senior center has these, the forecast of, the senior population and everything else. I'm also on the Council on Aging at Townsend, at the senior center, so I have an insight on that at our meetings. But yeah, starting at 5 would be really the right number, because this is what we do. But getting Jordan involved and getting the questions, like you said, talking to the VA. I mean, I've got some resources that I'm gonna hit this week. I'm going to a VFW convention this week, leaving tomorrow, so I've got a lot of VSOs are in the VFW that I can ask these questions and who to go to and how they're doing it. And get the information, so we can take a look at it. On a separate side, but the questions and what they're doing, what the format is, what the manual is on how we should be doing this. And this way we can go do it the right way and not have to, question ourselves in doing it by
Right.
regulation and everything else like that. So it just, again, 5 would be reasonable for us, at least to start with, and see where we can go with that.
Yeah.
And, relate to the community, which, as the veteran service officer, I do. With other veteran service officers, it's not just this town, it's everywhere else, so it's not just limited, so we can just see what happens.
Yeah.
But get the information out there and get the more we
Yeah, but
know, the better.
You wouldn't want to go for, 50 of them,
Right. No.
that, if you ask for that resource, the odds, we're just not really
Realistic.
confident we could fill that kind of volume, right? But at 5, that feels like a number that
Mhm.
we might be within striking range of being able to actually employ those. If we do, we find the demand is actually greater, then we can, in a subsequent
Yeah.
cycle, we can apply for more.
Definitely.
But we wouldn't feel like we're harboring resources that aren't gonna get used if we ask for 5. That feels like a reasonable ask.
Yeah, I think that's a realistic goal. And as a pilot project, I think that's good. I think you're aiming at the right number.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I can reach out to Jordan on my own, if
Okay.
everyone's okay with that. Have a one-on-one with, maybe with Karen too, if she's available, and try to figure out exactly the process, the steps that we can take, and then see what MRPC can do to help draft some of this paperwork and organize this and coordinate. There's certainly some paperwork to be done, but let's talk to Jordan first and then see if there's other VA contacts. Natalie, if you have other veteran contacts, I do through my own family. I have a few people, but if you have some that you want to share and email over to me, if you think I should speak with them, that's great. Please do.
Last weekend, when I see them, I'm going to a conference this week, so convention, so
Yeah.
I'll see my counterparts tomorrow.
Okay.
actually. So I'll
Perfect.
find
Yeah.
a lot in there. I know there's a lot of that. Leominster has, Rick, Bator, and I know he's retiring in January, but he's a
Yeah.
wealth of information. Same thing with, Michelle over in Pittsburgh. I've worked with them to see where we can go, how we can do this right, and they do it all the time. But they're bigger than, obviously we're small, but they're bigger and they
Yeah.
know steps to take. So I think by reaching out, again, talking to Jordan, we're gonna start off small and then see where we are. At least we'll be helping our veterans and their families. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line.
Yeah,
we get-
absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Maybe I
Yeah.
can I have done a fair amount of research just in terms of how the housing authority engages in the transactional contractual relationship with HUD, right? So there's a key contract called an ACC contract. And in this moment, I am not remembering what the A and the C and the C stands for, but that essentially is sort of the keys to the castle with HUD, which gives you it's an IDIS number, which is a number that gets attached to funding, right? So under that contract, you are given the privilege of being able to make bids on funding opportunities when they are posted. And when that funding becomes available, it gets deposited to your IDIS account, which is what the rent would eventually be deployed to in order to fund your vouchers, right? So this ACC contract is actually with HUD and not a VA agreement. So that's a piece that I've started to investigate on my own exactly how that has to be arranged. And that's a piece that the town actually has to enter into the contract with HUD. So this is a piece that I think we're gonna need Chaz's help
Yes,
with.
yes.
But
Yeah.
just so you know, that's another thread of work that I've kind of been working on in parallel. And I think part of what we need to be able to do is make the case for A, that there's an opportunity here that's really worth pursuing, but B, that we have a plan in place so that if we are awarded vouchers and we do engage in housing someone with those vouchers, that we have the capacity here. We figured out how to manage that capacity question that I think has been a barrier to us ever being able to engage in this agreement with HUD directly before. And
Right.
so that's actually a piece I think we really could use to help with is, if we could enter into the contract, be awarded the vouchers, Natalie and I could manage what the housing allocation plan is. But then once we've allocated the housing to a veteran, that veteran's housing has to be inspected annually. The rent has to be paid to the landlord from a bank account that, frankly, I'm not planning to become an accountant
Yeah.
part-time and do that myself. And I don't really think Natalie is preparing herself to, and I don't think our grant administrator really has the capacity to do it. But if we could find, say, Fitchburg or Shirley and have someone from one of these other regional authorities that we can partner with and get some support for in that regard, I think having a plan in place for how we could do that will be important when we take this to our Board of Selectmen and ask them, we would like to enter into this agreement to be able to pull some of these resources back. This is what we're planning, having at least, one or two communities that we've spoken with that have expressed willingness to enter into some sort of an agreement of that nature would be, I think, a healthy talking point when we make the presentation.
All right.
I'll do some homework then. Okay.
So do you guys have a regularly scheduled meeting like
I'll just say,
every month or every 2 weeks or?
say the next meeting.
August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th is our next meeting at 6 p.m. So we'll get so that's our next meeting, formal meeting.
Okay.
So you can let us know, I'll do my part, and I'll see what I can find out this week and which ways to go, and who's been doing what. I'll do it this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to,
Other states too.
I'll try to really formalize the detail that I understand about this ACC contract and pull that detail together. I have your emails. Would that be appropriate? So assuming I get everything together, can I just share by email with
Yes.
with both of you, or?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Bernie's the lead on it, but I need to know what's going on.
I have a few of those kind of relationships in my life, yes.
And I had another question. So typically when we apply for federal grants, whoever's applying needs to have a SAM registration, SAM, SAM. And I assume that Townsend has one.
Yes, Townsend has one.
Okay.
We can connect on that later.
Okay. And Erin, how involved do you want to be with us? are you going to be like a go-between and to give us narrative or information, or are we going directly to Jack and Natalie, or?
So I've only been here for a couple of months, so I'm not sure how the Townsend Housing Authority, there we go, usually likes to handle this. Most other boards and committees they give me the information, and then I work with the other entities like we've done with the other grants that we've worked on together so far, the town and MRPC.
Okay,
But I'm not sure how the Housing Authority would like to handle this.
okay,
I totally, Aaron, that would be a good thing, the right thing to do. Do what you've been doing with the other committees. I would say yes on that.
Okay.
You agree?
Uh,
Because that way we can get all the
By the
information out by the numbers, definitely by the numbers. We have to, so we
Okay.
don't skip something.
Yep.
If that's okay, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so
Erin, you can learn something in the process.
sure, yeah.
How fun federal grants are.
Oh, I've done federal grants.
All right, so rather than send my email, explaining what it is that as I understand it with the ACC application process to you guys directly, I'll send it to Erin, and Erin, you'll forward it on.
Yes, we can do it that way.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Making sure I got it right.
That sounds like.
It's just easier to have one liaison between us and the town so that we don't have people emailing randomly going rogue.
Yes.
We also want to be aware of open meeting laws. So if
Yep.
we're emailing information back and forth and there's a quorum on the other end of the emails, that's not good. So if Aaron's a go-between, then that avoids that complication.
All right.
All right, so we'll let you know if we need to come to your August 8th meeting with information and answers. I imagine we will. So we tentatively have it in our calendars.
All right.
Okay,
Yep.
and I will,
And
I
we
know,
can email in between.
well, I know you all are intending to reach out to Jordan. So, if in that conversation, if you'd be willing to ask him if he can make the August 8th meeting, that would be fantastic from our perspective. I'll also do the same if,
Mhm.
I'm actually imagining he might actually be, he might have a family growing like at the moment, which is maybe why he's not here, which is something he explained was a possibility. So I'm sure he has very good reason. But yeah, if that works, I think it would be great if we can get, whether it's him or somebody from that side of
Maybe,
the house to be able to join us. That would be
okay.
super helpful.
All right, great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Okay. So where are we? Okay.
And so do we have work we need to?
No, I mean, we need
Yeah,
we need to do approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, do we have minutes from last meeting?
Aaron, I can,
I was not a part of your last meeting, so I don't know if you have any minutes. I don't know how that was.
So the last meeting actually was continued until now, but I quite honestly can't even remember the previous meeting, what our discussion points were.
we'll go back to it in the August meeting. That way we can
Yes, okay.
see where we are. And we've already discussed everything I think we need to do.
Yeah, I think that was
That was it.
a pretty substantial,
Mhm, I mean, it covers everything. And, we just pull our resources together and we find out, we all find out what,
Yeah.
how would we do this with communities, any IDs, IDIS, and let's just go with that until August, that way we have the information.
Yep.
It's,
you know, there was one thing I did want to ask you,
Mhm.
NARO, do you remember do we have a NARO account?
I would have, maybe Aaron might know, I'm not, I don't know if we do now, I think we do.
NARO is, it's a,
Membership, right?
it's like a association of housing
We
authorities.
were gonna
and,
pay for that. I wanna know whether we can.
Yeah, I think it's like $100 a year or something like that.
$180. I think Aaron and I were discussing that.
But it's a,
So-
because it's a group of housing authorities,
Okay.
they do this sort of thing that, you know, they work with vouchers all the time, and I think there might be some good resources there.
Okay,
That we, even if it's just online stuff we can look up, or maybe someone we can make phone calls to.
we have it, yeah, we
Some
have that.
advice.
We just gotta, give the approval for Aaron. I know we have money in the account.
Okay.
Pay for that. Aaron, could you take care of the membership for that?
Yes, it's already been processed, I believe. It's with finance at the moment, I think.
Okay, no,
Okay.
that's fine. Let's
Great.
move over it. So, thank you.
If there's some sort of like a user account to log in on the web or something like that, is that something that, you'd be able to share by email if we get it?
I can look into that. I don't know anything about it, but I can look through Allison's old files and see if it's anywhere in there, or see if I can find a contact for somehow to reset it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that'd be great. Okay. Other than that, that's all we have, as far as I know.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
do we have any correspondence, Aaron? Do we have any correspondence?
Well, there's a couple other items on the agenda.
Okay.
So the MBTA community's draft bylaw language. I don't know if the Housing Authority wanted to provide any comment onto what I sent over. Specifically, Section I is something that has to do with housing. And also the hazard mitigation plan and the municipal vulnerability plan. That was another thing that was sent along. The land use department is looking for any comments on that plan. If the Housing Authority would like to make any comments, as well as during, sorry, looking at the agenda, as well as the housing production plan, if there's any goals or tracking, any updates that you would like to make or would like to make sure that we are moving forward on.
So I know we've looked at the housing production
Mhm.
plan before,
Mhm.
and I know so we've been looking at some of the properties that are
Okay.
on that list. And also collaborating with the Affordable Housing Trust
Mhm.
Committee, who,
Yeah.
you know, they had some ideas as well, and I think the way it was written last was pretty consistent with the discussions we've had. I don't recall anything being
Oh, they are.
any sort of change in direction
No.
from what was on that, when we worked on it with Courtney.
So we need
About
to
a
go
year
back.
ago.
I want to go back to that. Then we'll
Yeah.
go back up and look at it again.
Yes,
Um,
Aaron, did you
Yeah.
send an email with the
uh,
MBTA?
Yes, it was in the email that I sent on Monday.
okay.
Was it sent to all of us, or was it just sent to the chair?
It was sent to all of you.
Okay, is there an attachment, or is it just a regular email?
There is attached the
My-
agenda and a zip drive of the packet.
Okay.
That's what.
My apologies, I see it now. Thank you.
Do we need to go over it, or do we need just?
Well, there was that, you said item I in particular was one that you thought would be relevant to,
Yes,
Getting-
that one has the provision of workforce dwelling unit, so that's something that may be of interest to the Housing Authority.
yes, thank you.
Mhm.
if it's helpful, I can screen share that section.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. I've been sitting there struggling with my,
Sure. Oh, can the host please allow screen sharing for me?
Screen sharing. We need.
are you able to help,
screen share.
enable screen share? I think there's a,
Yeah, screen share with Aaron. What's that? Screen
she needs a
share?
screen share.
Yes, please. Commissioner.
She's got it shut off. I don't control that.
Oh, Aaron,
Who's got it?
She's got her microphone on, but not her camera.
oh,
No.
Yeah, I think that my computer restarted and it would not allow, it doesn't allow me to turn on my camera right now. I'm not sure if the update did something or, but it says that the host has disabled, participant screen sharing.
Can I think I've seen this, oh, we are sharing, we're not sharing, is there any more? More.
Yeah, I don't control her camera.
Would it be make you a co-host?
That should work.
Alright. Okay, you're a co-host now.
All right, perfect.
Once they can do camera and you control it from your own PC.
Yeah, okay.
Alright,
Looks
here
like
we
we're
go.
seeing it now.
Yeah, I see that one. This one. Can you see that all right?
Give us a second to get close, maybe, want me to read it to you?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay, so section I, mandatory provision of workforce dwelling units.
Okay, that's,
All developments of the MFOD, MFOD stands for,
Mandatory workforce development units, I believe.
okay, that contain 10 or more dwelling units shall include workforce dwelling units that comprise 10% of the total number of those dwelling units constructed and developed in each such development. Workforce dwelling units for the purpose of this section shall be restricted to households with income at or below 80% of the area median income as adjusted for household size as published by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy metro area and eligible for inclusion on the subsidized housing inventory maintained by HLC. Developments that are subject to section shall comply with no development shall be subdivided, phased to avoid requirements of this section. Workforce dwelling units shall be proportionally dispersed through the development with respect to location, unit type, quality, character, room size, number. Workforce dwelling units shall be equivalent to the development's market rate dwelling units in terms of design, quality, construction, workmanship, mechanical, plumbing, etc. Workforce dwelling units shall be conveniently located to the development's common amenities, as are the development's market rate dwelling units. The dimensional requirements.
Sorry, I was trying to keep up with you.
I'm trying not to get dizzy. Dimensional requirements set forth in section F by these bylaws shall apply both to the development's affordable dwelling units and its market rate dwelling units. The workforce dwelling units that are developed in accordance with this section shall remain affordable for not less than 30 years for newly created units. The planning board or designee thereof shall be responsible for administering this section and may promulgate rules, regulations, guidelines, and may include without limitation submission for dwelling units listed under the Executive Office of HLC's 40B housing inventory. The selection of qualified renters shall be effected under a marketing plan that shall be reviewed and approved by planning board, and such a marketing plan may accommodate rental preference requirements for towns and residents and employees to the maximum extent possible.
a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot, but you can consolidate it to one major thing.
I think everything I read sounds like it's consistent with what
We've been doing,
we're aiming for.
yes,
And I would
just,
I
yeah,
would feel comfortable endorsing
endorsing I, yes,
aye, yes.
Jay, yeah, we'll just go with that, okay. All right. So that takes care of that.
Okay,
Now,
thank you for highlighting that, Erin. Are there any
Sure,
others
no problem.
you think are particularly pertinent to needing our review in this moment?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Are there any others that you think are particularly in need of housing authorities?
Of the draft bylaw language for the MBTA communities?
Yeah,
I believe that that one is most pertinent to the housing authority.
yeah,
Okay.
and full disclosure, I feel like I should have reviewed those in more detail before this meeting, but if there are others that can wait until next meeting, I think
Yeah.
happy to do that between now and then.
That'd be good. Do that.
Okay.
Okay. So is that covered as far as what we need to do this evening? I'm just asking. Are we all set?
Any other thoughts, Erin, that you think we should address before adjourning?
So there was one other thing that I added into the packet. Let me pull it up. So this is correspondence that was received. This was 211 asking about the housing authorities information being provided to or by Mass 211. I wasn't sure if you wanted to review this all before I sent it back, as there is no, the housing authority does not own any property. I don't think that any of this would, or a lot of this would not apply. And I can go through and do most of the other things. If you'd like to add it onto your next meeting, you could look at it then instead, and we can wait to send it back. They just want to verify the information.
Yep.
Wait till next meeting?
Yeah,
We'll do the August 8th meeting then.
Okay.
We'll
we'll
do-
take a look at it between now and then and come back prepared to
we'll look at it.
share our feedback.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Anything else?
And I will put the hazard mitigation plan onto the next.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Make a motion to adjourn. Anything else? Anything else you want to discuss?
Have a great trip to Kentucky and safe travels.
I make a motion to
Come
adjourn.
back with some great contacts.
Great beer. Oh, I will. It's a lot of people want to be saying that. All right, we'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting then. Is that okay with us?
Second,
All right, we're all in favor of adjourn. Thank you, Aaron.
thank you, Erin.
everybody. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty.